You're welcome back to Politics HQ. The Nigerian Presidential Election Tribunal has adjourned its sitting to Wednesday, May the 10th, after an interesting day one of the tribunal on Monday. A pre-trial hearing was held on Monday with the counsels of the various candidates in attendance in Abuja, Nigeria's federal capital territory. Security was beefed up at the tribunal, with justices of the Supreme Court addressing the counsel of the challenging parties, candidates, and those representing the defendants. The tribunal has been set up to listen to the contentions of the People's Democratic Party and its candidate, Atiku Abubakar, and the candidate of the Labour Party, Peter Obi. Atiku is demanding his declaration as the winner of the presidential election or presidential rerun. Peter Obi has called for the nullification of the election. Meanwhile, the Action Alliance Party on Monday withdrew its petition at the tribunal as the first of a series of events still to unfold at the Presidential Election Tribunal. Now, joining me tonight on the program, I have Dr. Dayo Kayode, a public affairs analyst. He joins in from Nigeria's commercial capital, Lagos. And I also have Barrister Bashir Badru, a legal practitioner, joins us from Kano. Gentlemen, welcome to the program. Glad to have you on PHQ.
Good evening. Nice day with you today.
Now, I'd like to start with you, Dr. Kayode. Could you provide more context on the opening of the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal, what transpired today, and why is it significant?
Yeah, before we can understand the significance, we should be able to see the sitting of the tribunal as part of the electioneering process. Because the game of contest can also be likened to the contest of football. Football might be between two teams, where there is a dispute. In peradventure, maybe a goal or a foul or whatever, the match commissioner will call the central referee to come and check the VAR, whereby it will be confirmed whether the dispute in whether a foul or a goal can now be properly seen with the eagle eye of that VAR and for every other person to see. So what is happening in this electoral tribunal can be likened to that, whereby those in dispute have gone there and said, okay, let us look at the facts on ground properly to be able to have and further entrench a credible election. But then it is also very important to note that when you are trying to check the VAR, does the players continue playing, or do they award a penalty for somebody who has fouled, or do they award a goal before checking the VAR? If a goal has been mistakenly awarded, they will remove it, and then you check the VAR. So if the VAR now authenticates that goal or that infringement, then every other thing can now follow. What I'm saying in essence is this. Now, the issue of dispute in the last election in Nigeria is now in court. What are the expectations from the judges? You need to say, okay, let us maintain the status quo until when we now be able to determine the authenticity of the election being conducted by INEC. To that extent, we thank God, finally, the tribunal is now sitting. And let's see how it plays out in the coming days.
Thank you, Dr. Kayode. Now, Bashir Badru in Kano, what are some of the specific allegations of non-compliance with the Constitution, the Electoral Act, and INEC guidelines that these petitioners have made against President-elect Bola Ahmed Tinubu? Do they all have the same type of uniform petition, or they're seeking different prayers from the courts?
Well, let me assume I hear your questions, and probably the network at my end appears to be very, very bad, so I could hardly hear. Yeah, I heard partly like there are allegations with respect to substantial compliance with the provisions of the Constitution and the Electoral Act and
Yes.
guidelines.
Yes.
So if this is your question, yeah, I will probably start with the provisions of the Constitution. It appears the lawyers who should ordinarily be in the better position to advise and guide the unlearned, in quote, the people who are not lawyers, who are not learned, appears to be, the lawyer now appears to be the one misleading the entire public.
Why do you say so?
Hello?
Why do you say so? What's your reason for making this?
The provision of the Constitution, this is not the first time we have elections in Nigeria, for crying out loud. We had elections a long time ago. Then coming to elections in 2023, why do we have so many discordant teams? Like, oh no, somebody has to secure 25% of the FCT. That is what the Constitution says. No, I say emphatically no, and that is incorrect. That because you will want to ask this question: what actually will give FCT such a special status? For the purpose, read the Constitution, is very clear. For the purpose of elections, FCT is considered as a state, so it becomes the 37th state. So the provision is substantial compliance with the Constitution will say that when you are able to win 25, that is the requirements of the law, 25 out of the 37 states. This is what is contemplated. The mischief that is being read into this Constitution can never be contemplated by the law. So the lawyers who were supposed to understand this portion have continued to sing differently. I have listened to a number of interviews granted by senior advocates of Nigeria, for crying out loud. I want to assume that this is these conduct tones are more or less self-serving than the interests of this country. That is not the provisions of the law. But without preempting the court, the tribunal has commenced. So the judges are not silly. They are also lawyers. They have seen it through to get to where they are today. So let's wait and hear them interpret that provision of the law according to how it should be interpreted.
Thank you, Bashir Badru. Now back to you, Dr. Kayode. What factors might contribute to the likelihood of the court upturning the President-elect Bola Ahmed Tinubu's victory? Because if you look at the history of Nigeria, no presidential election result has ever been overturned. And how will the court determine the validity of the petitioner's claims? What would they be looking at?
All right, let me quickly for 1 minute come upon what my co-panelists are just said there as regards 25% of 36 states plus Abuja. He was now saying if Abuja doesn't have any special status, it will now be 37 states. Okay, now the question now is this. What is the 25% of 37 states? Because before we're looking at 24 states plus Abuja. I mean, let me also liken this to this analogy, whereby when you want to seek admission into the university, they will tell you 5 credits plus English and maths. Now, if you have 7 credits and you don't have English and maths inclusive, will you be given admission? No. And the special status Abuja is having is because Abuja is now the capital of Nigeria, whereby it is believed that everybody, all the sectors that are in Nigeria, all the demographic characteristics of Nigeria is embedded in Abuja. And that is why Abuja is being given that special status. And that is why till today, Abuja is not having a governor. That's why till today, Abuja
Well,
is not having
I guess, Dr. Kayode, between you and Bashir Badru, the courts will determine this position in
Exactly.
a number of days. So let's get back to my question on how the courts will determine the validity of the petitioner's claims.
Well, to determine the validity of the claims of the petitioners, it's very easy. One, bring out the data in Beavers, bring out the data in the IRF, and then bring out the, I think from CO8 or so, being signed by all the party agents at the various polling units. If they don't tally, then that means there is fraud somewhere. There is fraud somewhere. If you follow the news of recent, somebody claimed in one of the articles in one of the papers that nothing less than 9,000 results, that INEC will not be able to present up to 9,000 results to the tribunal due to various mutilations that has happened to that. But then the question is that true? Let them bring it to the court. Then let the judges look at all those things. If they are true, then where do we go from there? What is the provision of the Constitution? That is number one. Number two, when it comes to substitution of candidates, in terms of Masari, that was first of all being nominated as the vice presidential candidate, before it's now being substituted by the now vice president elect. Is that the provision of the Constitution, or rather, what are the provisions of the Constitution as regards that? All right, let's go further. There's also the case that, look, anybody who is going to be the president of Nigeria must be totally patriotic. That is, must not have dual citizenship. Is it true that somebody is having dual citizenship? And what is our Constitution saying about that? Another area is the issue of forfeiting of properties or money for some past misdemeanor. What is our Constitution saying about that? All these things will be put together by the judges. And then, based on that, come up with their own declaration. But my advice is this, and I like what the head of the tribunal said yesterday, that this particular tribunal will not allow the issue of technicalities to override the substances of each of the petitions.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Kayode. Now, Bashir Badru, looking at what transpired today, can you tell us more about the pre-hearing session? What sort of decisions were made and what happens during this stage of the process?
Sorry, come again.
I said, can you kindly tell us about the pre-hearing session, the pre-trial session? What sorts of decisions are made at this stage, and what's transpired today?
Decisions. I had a part. I couldn't hear the other part.
The
very bad.
Pre-hearing session.
Yes, sections and decisions with respect to what?
No, the pre-hearing session. What happens during the pre-trial session? What decisions are made? What transpired today at the tribunal?
Okay. You the practice at the pretrial sections is simple. It's almost similar to what we have at the civil courts. You know, okay, issues with respect to applications are considered. Okay, let's resolve all these applications. Then before we move to trial, let's have issues particularly joined. Then some other elementary matters are dispensed with. Okay, we have an application to do this. We have an application to do that. This is what is considered at the pre-trial period, and the window is always very short because these applications are taken together and are dispensed with. Then before the full trial is taken on. For instance, a party files an application, probably a preliminary application, with respect to a particular material evidence, or an application for inspection. Inspection period has even passed. So any interlocutory application will be dealt with before the full trial is taken, before witnesses are being called and the rest of them. So the pretrial period is to look at what is not so naughty, where issues can just be preliminarily resolved before the naughty issues are now delved into. If I understand the question, this is what I understand from it.
Thank you very much. Dr. Kayode, quickly, before we wrap up this conversation, if you can, in a minute, I would appreciate, when do we expect a verdict? How long is this whole tribunal going to go on for, and are they time-bound?
Yeah, definitely. According to the Constitution, it's supposed to be time-bound. But unfortunately, people are not looking at it. That when that Constitution was written, then we were not having electronic aspects of our voting process. We were not having beavers. We were not having iron. But now, we now have all these things on ground. We shouldn't have allowed this whole process to take so long. I mean, we can also take example from Ghana. We can take example from Kenya. How fast they were able to dispense with their electoral cases. Nigeria is supposed to be the big brother of Africa. So I will want to enjoy the judges that as a stakeholder, I am advising that they should act fast on all the cases, I mean, all the petitions in front of them without any delay. Based on the fact that we have the beavers, the iron, and then the sign from CO8 or so at different polling units. So it shouldn't be difficult for anybody to just wrap up these cases within few days.
Thank you very much, Dr. Dayo Kayode, Public Affairs Analyst, and also Bashir Badru, who joined us from Kano. Thank you for your time and insight.